me. Tell me you're joking. Well, tell me, kill me. Crowless one, same old story, same old happy ending. Crowless one, that same old story, we all fall to pieces. Joking, didn't do those things to me. Tell me you're joking. Well, tell me, kill me. Nobody's perfect, but Jesus Christ, no, not here. Tell me you're joking. Just say that you love me. Tell me it's not true. Wouldn't do that to you. I couldn't do that to you. Not to you. It's a long way back from here. It's a long way back from here. Such a long way back from here. So far back from here. Tell me you're joking. You didn't do those things to me. Tell me you're joking. Well, tell me, kill me. Nobody's perfect, but Jesus Christ, no, not here. Tell me you're joking. Just say that you love me. Tell me it's not true. Long way back from here. So far back from here. Finish me.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rock Pal Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill Season Ticket Holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. In studio with us tonight, Dr. Kyle Trimble from bangedupbills.com. And we are allegedly live with no streaming issues. Allegedly. We think we've exorcised the demons, folks. We'll find out. Kyle, I'm so happy that you're here. Like, it's been fun just getting to hang out in the studio with you tonight. I want to pour you a little taste of Wyoming here. I want to give you a little snifter there.
All right.
Guys, we are here celebrating the Buffalo Bills coming off the bye week. And I got to say, the bye week is always, in fact, I would call it a week of healing. I think it's good for all of us to kind of take a step back, take a mental health day from football, and that's exactly what this weekend was. Now, before I get into all of this, Kyle Trimble, bangedupbills.com, you know him, you love him. In fact, I think more of you follow him and interact with him on social media than you do us now. I hear you've got something new coming down the pipeline.
I do. I had my first article in the Buffalo Bills Digest. It's the official magazine of the Buffalo Bills. I had Alex Brasky of the Batavia Daily News reach out to me and have me do an article. And he was talking about wanting to have me do more regular content. So just another feather in the cap of everything I've been doing. And I'm excited for the new opportunities.
Cheers, sir. It's crazy just how we became friends, how this all started. And now I see what you're doing. And I'm just like, this is awesome.
You mean to tell me there's somebody from the internet coming to the house?
My mom, she goes, my mom, my wife, ooh, Freudian slip there. She goes, You mean to tell me that there's a man that you met on the internet who's coming to our home? I go, yeah, but I met him in Chris's kitchen once. He seems cool. And the look of skepticism. And now look, we go to each other's children's birthday parties. Our families, as the kids get older, they'll become friends. Like, it's a fun thing to have gotten to know you over the years.
It's been 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Chris, 8 years.
Yeah.
We're all 40.
I'm 36.
You're 36. Jesus Christ. I'm 39. He's old as shit. We're all dead men walking. 8 years feels like forever. But I'm pumped that you're here with us tonight and that we can have these conversations and we can talk about the Bills coming out of the bye week, because it really is a week of healing. I mean, if we think back to what we do individually with our bye week, what did you do with no Bills on TV on Sunday?
I was still doing AFC East content. I was still doing fantasy football content. Try to get some stuff done around the house for Thanksgiving. So there's never a time where I'm sitting around doing nothing, but it is nice to do a little bit extra or less work there.
And I love that Kyle in the comments, Kyle Washington, one of the first commenters of the night, he did send us beer. In fact, that's how our relationship started. And one of my favorite moments with Kyle of all time is us both being hammered way too late in an evening for it to be like reasonable. After the Bills had beaten the Ravens in the 2020 divisional round, he's smoking a cigar in his bathroom. He's like, well, I'm in here. I'd probably get in trouble for this, but I don't care. And I'm downstairs just raving, and my wife's like, I want to go to bed. You can't. I'm on the phone with Kyle. Guys, I love the people. I love the people who love this show. I love the community that we've built, and I love the fact that we get to sit around and do this. And I love your success, and I'm a huge fan of it. Guys, I urge you, go follow Kyle's work everywhere, whether it's the Bills Digest, whether it's bangedupbills.com. Give him a follow at bangedupbills on Twitter. He really is the person I go to whenever I have injury questions, and I think he has the best ability to add context to things. And so this week for the bye week, I spent it mostly doing here, cheers.
This is great stuff, by the way.
This is Wyoming whiskey, double cask. I spent the bye week working on drywall in a bathroom. I got more house projects done on Sunday than I have in like 3 weeks to a month. I got my snowblower out and fired up.
Did that yesterday too.
Because I heard that there's an impending snowstorm that scared the shit out of everybody.
Yep.
I've also winterized all my patio furniture, organized my shed to get all the snow removal stuff to the front. Just a ton of like small projects, that replacing light bulbs and all my outdoor light fixtures because I don't want to be doing it in the dead of winter.
Yep.
Like, these are all the things that a man does on a bye week.
I think I slept wrong on Monday. Kyle, you might have to touch me after the show.
All right, I can do that. I fixed Hugo last week when I saw him, so I could touch you.
There's so much to unpack here. One of the first things I want to talk about, though, is like when you have a bye week, you get the ability to look around and really kind of take stock of what you're seeing going on with other teams. Your corollaries are all playing and you're not. And so some of the teams that we would talk about as AFC contenders got kind of exposed this week, and I want to talk about it. Yep. First of all, you grew up in the Erie, PA area. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, how many of your friends were Steelers fans by comparison to you being a Bills fan?
Everybody. In fact, I grew up a 49ers fan because I didn't know better. And, Steve Young, Jerry Rice and whatnot, became a Bills fan, come up to Buffalo, went to school here. But, yeah, most of the people I knew growing up were Steelers fans. And then you had your Browns fans, those miserable fucks. And then you had your smattering of Bills fans, and you just felt sorry for them. But most of them were Steelers fans. My brother's a Steelers fan. One of my best friends is a Steelers fan. And pretty much everybody I knew was all rooting for the black and gold. And it just got really annoying, especially in, that was what, my senior year when they won the Super Bowl, when San Francisco, Seattle Seahawks. And I'm sitting at my buddy Mike's basement. I'm like, I'm going to watch these motherfuckers win the Super Bowl. I can't watch this. And I did. So
it's frustrating. Like, that Super Bowl, the only reason I liked it was because, what's his name? The coach at the time of the Seahawks.
Mike Holmgren.
Yeah.
He touched the trophy. You don't touch the Lombardi before you won it. It's the curse.
Well, he did win it, though, already.
But it doesn't matter. Year, you don't touch it or else. Like, it's just bad juju. Yeah. You didn't need that. So with that in mind, I'm watching this all kind of play out this week with the Pittsburgh Steelers. How are your family and friends feeling about the direction of the Steelers team this year?
You put them all on mute on Facebook, man. That's what you do.
I'm telling you this, watching them lose to the Cleveland Browns was a hell of a thing.
I did enjoy seeing that. Just as like, I mean, it's a divisional game. Anything can happen then, but it is satisfying when you see a shit team like the Browns go take care of business and beat the Steelers. And in fact, you know, it's funny, what Steelers beat the Ravens, the prior week or 2 weeks ago. So it's like, it's just everybody keeps beating up on each other.
Their offense just seems like it's stuck in the mud. Like, it's hard to watch. It's painful to watch the Steelers play offense. And like they're effective, but they're slow. And when I say slow, I'm talking slow like me trying to run the mile in high school. Did you have to do that?
Yeah, I did.
Chris, did you have to run the mile like a government mandated, this child has to be able to run 1 mile?
Only when I applied to be a Gwinnett County police officer.
Wait, is that a real thing?
Yes.
Wow.
Wait, no. It's not really. Like, hang on.
Yeah, that's a real thing. It's a real place I applied to.
How did you believe that they would ever give you a gun? You don't even know how to shoot a gun.
The issue I had with, like, I did the physical testing correctly. The interview I bombed at because...
Shocker. Hang on. Shocker, guys. Chris bombed a police academy interview.
Okay, this is in Georgia. So let's say you have a word or a string of words, usually referred to as a sentence, and each word is maybe 3 to 4 syllables, and the people that are interviewing you choose to use half to 1 syllable for each word.
So what you're saying is there was
it's a bunch of rednecks, and I can't understand you. Speak English. Learn how to enunciate. Why do you think I went to private school?
I was going to say
enunciation.
Your private school enunciation and knowing how to spell the word waste. Mm-hmm. That guy can kick rocks. I love it. So with this in mind, like here's what happened to me. Trying to run the mile in high school. It went around the side of our school because we're poor. I didn't go to private school. The mile had to be run around the perimeter of the school twice. But our school was right down the street from a hardware store that sold penny candy. And so me and my friend Neil conspired that we were like, listen, we're both fat. We're both fat asses. Here's what we're going to do. On our first pass around, we're going to sprint to buy ourselves a 2-minute window of time that we can run across the street to Guy's Lumber and go buy $5 worth of Swedish fish. And so then we completed the rest of the mile while jogging and just eating candy. And I'll never forget the look on the face of my gym teacher as we both, Chris, 2 guys with double chins and giant hair jogged past him holding a plastic bag full of Swedish fish. And the look on his face, that's the look on my face when I watch the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I go, why aren't you faster? What are you doing? Move your ass. It's hilarious to see how incompetent the Steelers are. They're 30th in red zone scoring offense. That's embarrassing. You're in the bottom of the league. It's the lowest of any team to win its division in the last 10 years. Justin Fields getting rolled out there as a change of pace quarterback feels awkward. Like, I know college teams do it, but Chris, isn't it that thing? Like, I think Mark Schlereth said it. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Why is Justin Fields seeing the football field? Their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, obsessed with running on first down, even though every analytic on earth says you shouldn't do that. And they're 0-3 in their last 3 games against opponents with 3 or fewer wins. For all the love that Mike Tomlin gets, when you hear a stat like that, you can't do anything but squint at it like someone farted and it's burning your eyes. Like, what is that? What? That's all I can think of. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. And so in that way, Pittsburgh, well, they are still leading their division. Like, what's the threat there? You have to question.
Yeah.
Kansas City. I love the fact that Kansas City game usurped. I for sure thought that locally, Patriots-Dolphins was going to be the game.
Me too.
And then instead we were treated to the Chiefs almost losing to the Carolina Panthers.
But also locally, we had Dallas, Washington, which was a much better game all around.
Oh, wait. Well, you mean for the last 3 minutes?
8 minutes is when all 41 points were scored in the fourth quarter.
Kansas City is a mess. They didn't create any pressure. They forced Spagnuolo to blitz, which left them exposed in the secondary, which, not shocker, isn't good. Right? The Bills showed everybody that. I almost wonder if the Bills didn't show the rest of the NFL some things about the Chiefs secondary, where they're like, hey, guys, you don't need talented wide receivers. Rub routes. Just run rub routes. They don't know what to do. They get lost. And they gave up these giant passing plays to what has been an impotent Carolina offense. And then on the other side, their pass protection couldn't have been worse. I mean, Mahomes sacked 5 times.
That's unheard of.
That doesn't happen, except for Sunday. So then you're watching this, and then you watch the Chiefs defense. You go, oh, okay, it's Carolina, though. It's 2 minutes and change. There's no way they pull this off. They don't tie this game. It was sloppy defense by the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it. That's the only thing I can say about it. Like, blatant PI in the end zone, pass interference on the 2-point conversion. They just worked their way down the field and then let sloppy defense. Like, Chris, we always talk about how physical the Kansas City Chiefs try to be.
Correct.
The problem is that if you're slobs about it, the refs won't overlook it. Like, it almost tells you, like, if the refs don't overlook the way the Chiefs want to play football, a lot of their games and their play style just doesn't work. It doesn't work. KC players, to read it on The Athletic, were openly pissed in the locker room after the victory. Journalists from The Athletic were noting that it didn't feel like a winning locker room. It felt like a funeral. And wouldn't you too?
Yeah.
Guys, it almost reminds me of that episode of Rick and Morty where they get back in the spaceship and they just, even though they like, victory, we blew up the Death Star thing and it's great. Everyone gave us a trophy. And then they get back in and they just burst out into tears. That was too close. That is exactly where the Kansas City Chiefs are and should be. Because I think it's a recognition by the players that, like, wait a minute. Not only are we capable of losing to other star teams, but also, word's out. These teams have figured out how we operate, and they're using it against us. And that's got to be a sobering thing, right?
It is. You mentioned that the Mahomes got sacked 5 times. I went Pro Football Reference real quick and looked. He's only been sacked 5 times in a game, 1 other time. That was back in his technically rookie year, 2018, because he was sat out the first year against the Arizona Cardinals. He won 26-14, but he sacked 5 other times. I mean, he's had other games where he's been sacked 4 times, but I was just surprised that there's only been 2 times where a defense has gotten to him that often.
I just love the idea of every single guy, Juwan Taylor, like all these suckbags in Kansas City, just sullenly like moping around their locker room. In the words of the great Dave Chappelle, you hate to see it, Chris, but more than that, you love to see it. You also love to see is, and I think it's and I've got a broader point that I'm going to have to eat some crow on here. Houston's a team that got a lot of preseason love because they assumed that C.J. Stroud was going to hit his stride, and this is it. He's going to carry this team. This is a Super Bowl contender, and nobody sees it coming. This weekend, when I got done with all of my work, all of the stuff I was doing around the house, I came in and I put on the Red Zone, and I got to watch what was the craziest field goal attempt I've ever seen. I didn't know it had preempted it. I went back on NFL Plus and watched the condensed version of the game in about 35 minutes. NFL Plus is great. If anybody out there, just use that. I see Kahimi Fairbairn just flopping to the ground and laying on his back, staring up at the sky in disappointment.
Who was that?
Kahimi Fairbairn, the kicker for the Houston Texans.
All right, we got to work on your pronunciation. Maybe you should go to private school.
Look at these teeth. I couldn't afford braces. You mean to tell me I'm going to private school? I'm from North Collins, dog. When you take into account some of the recent performances, like that was a summation of everything the Houston Texans are right now, and I don't know what to say about him. Will Levis had his best game as a professional against the Texans this weekend. Chris, isn't that alone? That right there is the biggest embarrassment, isn't
I
it?
mean, I was following the game on my phone, and I can remember looking at the app and seeing third quarter, Jimmy Ward intercepted Will Levis for a touchdown. I go, okay, well, that
tracks.
That's tracks, and that's where we see Houston run away with it. I guess not.
You assumed it would be a landslide, and it was not. Here's a fun fact. The Houston Texans have gone 2-3 since mid-October, and they've dropped games to all the juggernauts that you would have expected, right? The 2-win Titans, the single-digit win Jets. How the hell did this team almost go to overtime with the Lions? Their offensive line is terrible. And they're committing penalties at a rate that should, these guys should be arrested for what they're doing to Nico Collins. Nico Collins keeps having 20, 30, 70-yard touchdowns called back because the Texans' offensive line keeps committing penalties. And when you look at it for a quarterback who's not playing good football, and C.J. Stroud, watching what his offensive line was in that game, it can only make things worse. They're atrocious in the red zone. How can you be a postseason threat if you can't score points in the red zone and you can't protect your quarterback? I walked away from this. DeMeco Ryans is outrage. I'm 39. Chris, you're almost 40.
I am 40.
That's right. Jesus. You're old as shit.
Yep.
Look at you. How much gray you got coming in over there?
I got a lot of gray. A lot of back problems, too.
A lot of back problems?
You just wait till you're 40.
Dude, I've already got them. We're both crippled. This is the crippled podcast.
This is you guys know me.
No, that's what I'm saying. Two cripples and a doctor. That's what we're going to recall. We're going to rename this podcast. Two cripples and a doctor. We'll do a weekly spot. He'll come over here, fix us, and then also he can pontificate about his own football ideas. We'll make him the host. Here's what I love. DeMeco Ryans is the youngest head coach in the NFL at 40 years old. He has no real experience outside of Houston. Do we know that he has it to pull this team back together? Last year's team had promise but wasn't that successful. They lost a lot of close games. They made the playoffs and got embarrassed by Cleveland. Does DeMeco Ryans have that gear where he can be like, hey guys, we need to dig deep. Here's how I'm going to organize this. Here's what we need to do. Do we trust that a first-time head coach that age and that inexperienced can help this team figure itself out?
I mean, as a former player, I think he might be able to figure it out. But as a coach, he doesn't have that. He was defensive coordinator for the 49ers for 2 years, and then otherwise he was positional or quality control. So he doesn't have the experience, and not that he needs to have multiple head coaching positions in order to do that. But outside of having to be a player, if he can do it, great. If he can't, then he's going to lose the locker room, and it's going to just continue to be tougher and tougher to keep these guys together. Yes.
No hesitation, just yes. So this is my thing. Watching Kahimi Fairbairn, not only did we get kind of a synopsis, and Steve Noble just asked a really good question. Do the Ravens make the playoffs if they lose tonight? I don't know. I think if they lose tonight, it'll open the door for a lot of ugly situations.
Your favorite linebacker, Steve Tasker, had said if they lose tonight, they will not make the playoffs. That's what I saw on the Cover One Discord channel.
My favorite line. Chris, that'll never get old.
Listen, I listen to the podcast when I can drop jokes in there like that. Just take shots at you.
It is. Listen, that's an indefensible take. It's an indefensible thing to say. Kahimi Fairbairn, though, being one of the NFL's most accurate kickers, and then just kicking 2 from 50, and then just absolutely blowing what is a PAT essentially in a high pressure situation. It got me thinking, especially in light of what else went on around the NFL yesterday that I got a front row seat to. Because broadcaster Joe Davis, I remember the name, I wrote it down. Joe Davis was spot on. When, even at the time he didn't realize how globally it would apply, when he made this statement at the end of Commanders Cowboys, and the worst special teams day in history has a fitting finish. Because he watched Austin Seibert from the Commanders shank a game-tying PAT with 21 seconds to go in the fourth. Chris, we're not just talking about
like, oh, this
Well, he
game-
missed one earlier in the game too.
Oh, I know.
And those were his first misses of the year from an extra point.
We're not just talking about a game that didn't go well for those two football teams, though. The entire league decided to take the time when the Bills were at home and Bills fans everywhere could tune in and watch to absolutely shit their pants on special teams. It was league-wide. Everybody. I mean, let's run it down. Commanders, 2 missed PATs, also allowed 2 kick return touchdowns. 2, not just 1, but 2. When does that happen unless you're the New England Patriots playing the Bills after Hamlin dies? Okay? The Raiders, fake punt for a first down that somehow works, and then they also have a blocked punt that leads directly to a Denver touchdown. A blocked punt, like that's a college thing. That doesn't happen in the NFL.
Nope.
The Texans have an 80-yard kick return. So the Tennessee Titans are like, oh, fuck, our special teams. And then Fairbairn misses a 28-yard field goal to tie the game with less than 2 minutes left. And then you go on to lose the game at home because C.J. Stroud turns into Dan Orlovsky and just runs out of the back of the end zone. The Vikings allow the Bears to recover an onside kick that still, like watching the replay, seems idiotic. It's Keystone Cops. And then the Rams, Josh Carty, missed another 47-yarder. Everyone in L.A. is calling for that guy's head. He's a rookie kicker, but he's missed his 5th this year, and it's from distance.
Who are they going to find on free agent, though? Like, who's sitting out there that can replace him? You're better off sticking with that guy.
And so this is where I take a swig of, well, first of all, I'm going to see, Chris, this is why the table's a mess all the time. Yeah, I just spilled some Utica Club on here, and I'm not sorry about it. All right, I'm ready. Guys, I want to preface what I'm about to say with some facts. I'll do them quick. First of all, Tyler Bass is due to account for $4 million against next year's cap. He only has $3 million in, like $3 million in dead money. It saves us $1 million. He's 13th in the league in terms of pay, 16th in field goal percentage entering week 13. He has 3 misses inside of 40, but he has the most missed PATs in the entire NFL at 4. And one of those is dubious, so maybe you give him 3, but I'm calling it 4. With that said, I might have been a little bit hard on Tyler Bass. Chris, how often do I apologize for anything?
Not often. You apologize more for sports related things than you do personal things. That's
fair.
True.
That's absolutely fair. I might have been hard on Tyler Bass after watching what went on around the NFL during this bye week with special teams units across the league. Kickers missing what amounts to chip shots in clutch moments where you had to have them. I've been banging this drum that also Justin Tucker 2 weeks ago showed his ass to everybody and then went on to blame the field. He's like, oh, the turf was bad. Meanwhile, the Steelers kicker went on to kick like 8 field goals to win the game.
Yep. I think that's all the points, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was they didn't score a touchdown and beat the Ravens. What I saw yesterday made me realize that this is a league-wide problem. And also that some of the guys that I compared him to, some of the journeyman players, the rookies who I'm like, look at how good they are. They're coming back to earth late in the season because I guess across a long enough timeline, everything regresses to the mean, doesn't it?
Yes.
And one of the upshots for Tyler Bass right now is that he is regressing to the mean, or I guess you should say progressing to the mean. He's getting back to being the kicker that we thought he could be. There's a dubious, missed PAT against Kansas City, but realistically, he banged in that one from 60. Mm-hmm. His confidence is high. He's hitting field goals when you ask him to do it. That's the gig. And he's gotten back to doing that in a way that's not embarrassing or detrimental to our cause. Mm-hmm. And so in that way, when I watch the rest of the NFL, even prominent names like Kahimi Fairbairn, Justin Tucker, Seibert's been having a great year. just absolutely shit their pants in front of everybody. And here's Tyler Bass going, like, Chris, do you imagine he's on his couch at home just laughing, going, these guys think I'm a problem?
Well, that last extra point for the Redskins wasn't Siebert's fault to begin with because it was a bad snap.
Oh, it was a terrible snap. I saw it. And I remember the long snapper coming up to him and being like, my bad. My bad. That's on me. So with that in mind, I think that I think that we just all need to kind of goose fraba. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3.
Goose fraba.
We all need to goose fraba on some of the hot takes on Tyler Bass because realistically, the guy is giving us what he has, and what he has is still better than a lot of what everyone else has on most Sundays. To criticize this guy now that I've seen it with no skin in the game, I can go. It's almost like that thing of the guy who criticizes a girl you're dating, and then you go, "Ooh, I met my buddy's girlfriend, and she's awful." I instantly become more thankful for the fact that I'm not in that boat. I feel that way about Tyler Bass right now today.
It's a good thing you are apologizing because I was wondering, I'm like, at what point is Reed going to come down here and just go all Deebo Samuel on your ass and just freaking just, instead of just like hitting you, he's going to take you out. He's going to rearrange your teeth there.
Chris, can you picture? This is how I'm picturing the bit would go down. Chris, we'd be in the middle of a podcast, and all of a sudden, Chris would just go over to the sound pad and hit a button, and the Stone Cold Steve Austin music would start playing. And Chris would go, "By God, that's Reed Ferguson's music." And Reed would come through that door and just, with like a 3-step stride, just cold cock me right here on camera. And it would be one of the greatest pieces of podcasts. Like it would go down in podcast lore.
I'm not sure I would play the Stone Cold music. That's not very fitting for Reed. I would play whatever Joel Osteen came out to the previous Sunday.
Killed Kyle. All right, that's good. See, now this is an official Rock Power Report podcast. We've offended everybody. We've gotten it all out there. I've apologized for some egregious transgressions. It wouldn't be a podcast if we couldn't get it all in under the umbrella. So now, Kyle, to kind of focus more on your expertise for why we had you join us tonight. The Bills' injury outlook, week 13 and beyond. One of the biggest benefits to having a bye week is the fact that your team can get healthy, that you get the extra time with the training staff. Because for those people who are like, oh, they just take trips and they just go home and sit with their family. Absolutely not.
Some do.
Some do if you're feeling well. Some of them stick around Western New York and just get treatment every day.
Yep.
Because they know that whatever they're ailing from, they need to get over. And the only way to do it is to be there in the building, seeing the trainers, working out with them, getting daily rehab. And in fact, if anything, and you can maybe speak to this from your own personal endeavors, some of the guys don't get the personal treatment that they need because the training staff is only so big. Like you yourself have branched out into treating players if and when they're available because there's not enough bandwidth of our training staff to do it. You want to speak to that a little bit?
I've had a few opportunities, and it is true. There's especially during training camp, there's 91 players on the roster. Sometimes they're able to get some of the treatment, and they even just had an article in the Buffalo News about guys bringing their own personal guys in because they're getting that more individualized care. Like there is not market, but an area where there's a
serviceable market.
Yes, exactly. So these are guys, especially they said any guy on a second contract is contracting some type of PT, massage therapist, chiropractor, come in and work with them, whether it's locally or they're flying them in, something that allows them to get the extra care they need. And it's not an indictment on the training staff. It just, there's only so many bodies in the building and they need to get that extra care. And sometimes they just get an extra stuff that the extra, TLC and whatnot. So I've been fortunate to do a little bit of that, but something I want to do more. But it's just
it's hard to get in.
It is. It really is.
It's hard to send an email that says, "Hey, NFL player, let me touch your body."
Not like that, but
if you were Chris, that's how you'd write it.
Yes, if I was Chris, yes. So
it's let me put my hands on you, and they immediately delete that, and then they also call they also call the Bills and they go, listen, if this guy's in the stadium, can you have security round him up and just whip him?
Call the FBI too.
They want you on a list.
Yeah, yep.
So with that said, let's talk about. So I want to start with. We're talking about the Bills' team health and how each individual injury is kind of coming out of this and where our team looks to be moving forward. I want to start with the guys with nagging injuries because nagging injuries are such a hard thing, right? Like a perfect example, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is a guy who has turf toe. And it's the quintessential nagging injury. Josh Allen picked it up that year in that game against Tampa Bay.
It was something. It was a foot, toe. It was something that he kind of worked through.
And he came out. Everyone's like, oh, he's limping. He's hurt. And he still came out and had the gutsiest performance on a bad limp I've ever seen.
Josh Allen isn't human, though.
No, yeah, he's a unicorn. But Curtis Samuel's nagging injury, like when you see him catching this in the preseason, then you watch what he's been in the regular season, are you shocked? Like it's that thing of you have no explosiveness to speak of.
Yep.
All of a sudden, this guy has no explosiveness, and that's what he was kind of known for, was this gadget player who could be what we wanted from Isaiah McKenzie on steroids. How much do you think that this turf toe injury has bothered him? And how much do you think that maybe just a week of rest, just being off of it might help him kind of going forward?
So the turf toe back here injured that just a little bit. Back, he started showing up on the injury report right before the Steelers preseason game. And they were a little cagey about what it was. It was undisclosed. And they came out and said it was turf toe. I had a good authority that it really was a pretty minor injury, so it was really confusing as to why he was having such a struggle, and then had a tough time getting him involved in the offense. Now, he did have another foot/toe injury in, I believe it was Houston Texans game, and he got stepped on, I believe, by Dawson Knox. And so he's always had some other injuries, and he had the right pectoral injury against the Tennessee Titans, so he's been slow to get going with that. So how significant that toe injury in the preseason was that led into the other stuff and they got aggravated and whatnot. So we even know that the foot toe injury they suffered in the Texans game was the same side as the other. It was the same side as the other side. He's just always had a lot of injuries. And if you go back and look at his injury analysis I did on my website, he's had a long history of this. So like he's battled through injuries. He's had great production, but it just seemed like things were falling off the rails this year. I wasn't a fan of the signing for the price and just injury history, everything else. And it was kind of showing that, hey, this is why we shouldn't have signed him, or at least at that price.
He says, and here's the thing: it was never significant injuries. It was always
just some of the nagging ones. Yeah. So he continues to follow the constant path moving forward here. He has had some more production recently, but has it been the result of other guys not being available, or is he finally just starting to get healthy again? The bye week certainly going to help him, so maybe he does come into where he's serviceable in the final stretch of the season.
Safety Taylor Rapp. This is where we always talk about the thing, Chris. The scene in Miracle where he's asking the guy, "Are you hurt?"
One more time, please.
In the movie Miracle. Now, how do you pronounce it, idiot?
It's Miracle, not Miracle.
Miracle?
It's not Miracle like...
How do you say it?
Like
Miracle.
Norm Miracle, the goaltender who played for the Thrashers and Red Wings. It's Miracle.
Miracle.
No.
I'll fight you both right now. I swear to God, I'll flip this table. So, I guess...
Super
Oh, my
Mexican.
I'm going to fight. Safety Taylor Rapp. Foot injury. Like in the movie Miracle, he asks the guy, "Are you hurt or are you injured?" And there is a stark difference. Taylor Rapp is dealing with that because he's hurt, but he's not injured. He has a left foot injury that you've kind of scouted.
Yeah.
And he got aggravated during the win over Kansas City that took him off the field for a little bit of the game, but
Yes.
he did return for the finish. And you've talked about it over at your website that he's kind of been nursing this for a while. What does that look like, and what's the upshot after a week of rest?
I mean, a week off of any injury is going to only help it. He had the injury the week prior. The week escaped me, but basically we saw him with tape, pre-wrap, everything on the foot. He's getting some treatment on the field, and then he showed up the next week with a foot injury, and then he aggravated it at some point during the Kansas City game. Was questionable return, eventually did return. It looked like, I believe, he got stepped on, if my memory serves me correct.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things he keeps battling through, but there was something pre-existing before. So hopefully just not having to run on it every day, not having to jump on it every day. It just finally gives it the time to just really rest. Hopefully gives him enough time to really kind of get back up to speed and hopefully get off the injury report.
I love it. Steve Noble's like, hey, Chris, I love you whether you have a job or not.
And Steve, we'll get back to who's going to be back this weekend. Don't worry. That's on the docket.
Spencer Brown. Now, this is one that I'm very interested in because with the way Vandermark played, I almost feel like if you're the Buffalo Bills, you can kind of like, it's almost like house money.
Yeah.
I'm already ahead. And knowing that there might not be a Nick Bosa out there for the 49ers, you might almost benefit from giving Spencer Brown another week of rest. What's your take on the injury to Spencer Brown and the upshot of giving him, like, would another week benefit him given the type of injury it is?
Absolutely. He had a low ankle sprain. He injured it in week 10 against the Colts. He just rolled his ankle, just trying to block. He's able to get taped up, return to the game before the swelling set in. And then he said he was hopeful he was going to play against the Chiefs, and I think it came down to he just couldn't get the kick slide down because that's his outside ankle. And it was smart to let him rest. Like, if it was a playoff game, he probably would have tried playing, but you get Vandermark in there, and he did fantastic. So I think he would absolutely benefit from sitting out another week. But do you sit your best player or one of your better players because you can, or does he really truly need another week? He's had 2 weeks off now. He required 2 weeks the last time he sprained that same ankle in 2022. So could he return? Yes. Should he play? Yes. But can you give him another week? Because, hey, you have the depth and luxury? Sure. It just, do you make him active, but give Vandermark the start, saying, hey, we need you in case, but let's let you rest. I mean, they've done that with other guys before. It's not something I've considered before, but it's something I'm open to. I mean, why not?
Well, this is it. Chris, why wouldn't you want one of your offensive tackles, who I think, like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the mess they're in. They're in that position because their tackles are bad. Like, 5 sacks on Patrick Mahomes is a hell of a stat. The fact that this is happening to you, you have the luxury of having a really quality, cultivated guy who understands the system, backup right tackle. Would you buy yourself one more week?
It's all dependent on what they're going against on Sunday. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their rankings are for the Niners, but if whoever's playing, slated to play for the Niners, if you feel Vandermark can handle that, then I would go with Vandermark and
100%.
Because we're going to have a matchup here in 2-3 weeks against the Lions.
Yes,
which is going to be huge. And you want to have everybody that can be healthy for that game. You want them healthy.
Does the name Robert Beal Jr. strike fear into you?
No. Okay. And that's it.
That's why Vandermark maybe will go with that.
And this is why Vandermark might play. Now, there are some guys in the Bills roster who, because of injury, are kind of a long shot to come back soon, and their status might be more up in the air. And this is where we really dig into your expertise, Kyle. I want to start with Dwayne Carter. Dwayne Carter showed what he can be. Like, literally, that Titans game was a referendum on Bean's ability. Like, say what you want about him whiffing in the first round or second round. In the third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, he has found how many all-pro players.
He makes his money there.
Players. He makes his money as a GM in those rounds. Here's Dwayne Carter. Has one of the strongest games of any rookie defensive lineman I've seen in a long time, and then immediately goes on IR with a wrist injury. That's tough. Now, do you have any details on the procedure? And just because I'm looking at him being on IR, he's coming up on what his window would be to come back, but it fully depends on the type of injury and how long the timeline is.
Exactly. So he had suffered a wrist injury, like you said, a right wrist injury. We saw him after the game in a brace with thumb support, which is key when we're discussing the wrist injuries, because sometimes it gives us clues here. And early in the third quarter, he had kind of somersaulted over and landed on his right wrist, finished playing the game, but then they said he'd gone for x-rays, and he's like, oh, I'm good. Well, we've heard that excuse a million times before.
Yeah.
So we never believe the guys when they say that. So we don't know that he had a surgery procedure, but it's likely that he suffered a scaphoid fracture because that is a pretty common injury to suffer when you land with your fall and outstretched hand. That's what FOOSH stands for. So, and the fact that he had the thumb support and the brace signifies the scaphoid because that's over toward the radial side of your wrist on the thumb side. So, given that he was put on injury reserve prior to week 8, he's exhausted or at least met the minimum requirements necessary for injury reserve. So he can return in week 13. It's whether they activate him or not. We saw Dawson Knox suffer a very similar injury. He missed 5 games. I believe he had the bye week in there as well. Mm-hmm. Defensive tackle not having to catch. You may be able to return a little bit quicker. This might come down to, do you need him to return this week or can you keep him out a little bit longer? It's going to come down to roster gymnastics. But we've seen guys come back with clubs. We've seen them come back and just do whatever they need to do. So considering he plays as a tackle, yeah, just put a club on that thing if it's not fully healthy and just get up there and continue applying pressure up the middle. But if it is healthy enough, then great. He can do, more gripping and, tackling and everything else.
There's a part of me that wondered if the signing of both Quinton Jefferson and Jordan Phillips wasn't a referendum on the fact that they didn't think they'd have Dwayne Carter anytime soon.
I think he's going to return sooner. I think it's just guys that they know that if they need to cut him, they're going to stick around town if they need to. And they're guys that knew the system and could just hop in quickly. I don't think that was
That's
an
fair.
indicator of
That's fair.
saying that, hey, he's going to be out for a while. I mean, maybe we talk about Dwayne Smoot, we'll get to soon.
Well, that's it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Dwayne Smoot. Here's a guy who was a healthy part of the rotation. And one of the things that I guess if you're just watching the games at a lay level, you don't understand. He was the guy who was spelling Greg Rousseau a lot of the time. Yep. He was playing that left end role. And so when Dwayne Smoot goes out and you go, oh no, he was doing the edge setting and also pressuring the left tackle and he was doing it well. How quickly can he come back to the roster? And what was his injury?
His injury was a little more significant than Carter's, unfortunately. We don't have exactly what happened, but we know he underwent surgery. We know it wasn't wrist dislocation because when you have wrist dislocation, that's an immediate emergency issue and you get that reduced. We saw with Jordan Phillips when he punched Terrence Steele in the butt last year.
Yes.
So going back to Smoot here, we knew he had surgery on Tuesday. He suffered the injury that Sunday. I had thought he broke his radius, which is once again the top bone, the same area we were talking about with Carter near the thumb. And this happened when he tried blocking Durham Smythe, and it was just a regular block. And he, as soon as he hit, he knew he screwed up something because he grabbed his wrist and was turning over. And you can see in some other footage from I think News 8 now in Rochester, he was kind of dangling his arm and it's like, I need help. I did something.
Yeah, that's the
so it's probably a distal radius fracture just based off the hit, the fall and outstretched hand mechanism where the wrist is extended and it places pressure through the radius, the ulna, and I believe that's probably what happened. That injury takes roughly 6 weeks to return back from because he probably need to be having screws and
you're going to get a screw and a small plate.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
So, and then you have to get ramped back up there. So, I've seen anywhere from it takes 42 days for guys to return. I've also seen things where it takes, 6 to 9 weeks, but that's been more I think the research with soccer players, which is a true indicator as to what, returning. His time frame to return, he could return as early as the Week 15 game, but once again, roster gymnastics. I think he's going to take a little more time. He needs that time to ramp back up. So he's probably looking at Week 16, Week 17. Injuries might play a part into when he does return too. When he does return, he will probably play with some type of brace, some club on the area, but he's going to be able to play and still do everything he needs to do. It's just unfortunate that it looks like he broke a bone in his hand. Needs time to heal up and just get everything calloused back up.
Guys breaking shit. It's just been it's been a symptom of the Bills this year. Balen Spector, like I had him on the list, but I'd rather talk about another linebacker who probably carries a little more gravitas.
I mean, Spector, he's constantly full of soft tissue injuries and everything else. It's just a shame. And he had the injury back in September or August against the Steelers before the Steelers game. And I can almost guarantee that it's the same calf it was right calf back in August. I reached out to some of the Bills beat reporters. They could not confirm. One said it was left and one said it was right. But I guarantee it's the right. He says he's going to be back. It's grade 2 according to Buffalo News. It's just like this guy plays hard, but it's like take care of your body.
Take care of your body. Now, a guy who every woman in Buffalo wishes here's a body they wish they could take care of. Weak side linebacker Matt Milano. And this is the category of player where we're talking about guys who could reshape the entire season with their presence. Matt Milano. It's notable that he's only appeared in one of the last 4 regular season games for the Bills against Kansas City. And yet we've won a lot of them. We've won those games. Yep. Last year, his presence was missed in the postseason matchup.
Very much so.
Watching Matt Milano, like, almost get a second lease on life late. Hey, you didn't break your leg early. You didn't tear something early. You're not missing the Chiefs game. Is this almost an easy way to, like, selfishly, is it cool that he might be here when we play them again in the playoffs?
It's incredibly cool. I mean, it's awesome that, it's unfortunate he had the biceps tear, but silver lining, and other people have said this, I've said this, the fact that gave him 3 more months to allow his right knee to get healthy, because he was looking good in the preseason, but he wasn't looking 100%. But like the comparison between, July, August practices to now is night and day. And there's still some slight things, but imagine if he tried playing through that knee injury, he would have just been slow and be like, man, why are we paying this guy?
People would have bitched about how Matt Milano's not fast enough and he's not tackling and he's not doing that. And they're like, well, guys, he broke his leg.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious injury. Yeah. I mean, he had tibial plateau fracture. I see these, a few times a year. I just saw one on Saturday.
Even saying it sounds gross.
They take time to heal up, and there's nothing you can speed it up. I mean, it's a pretty significant injury. When he does come back, I'm more worried about his knee than his bicep. The bicep is just, like I said, silver lining at this point.
So I love the fact that you've gotten this from his practice tape. And now here's a question, Chris, and this is kind of a group conversation, and I even open it up to the people in the comments. Our linebacker core has been functioning really well. Really well. Sans Matt Milano. And everyone's like, Dorian Williams started off rough last year, but he's gotten his flowers over the course of the last year. That Chiefs game, he played a great game. So with that, the question becomes, there's no doubt you don't demote Dorian Williams to put Matt Milano into a football game at weak side linebacker and Terrell Bernard at middle linebacker. And they become...
Not immediately.
Well, not immediately. But what happens is they become the best linebacker tandem in the AFC East. But now the question becomes, if you have to, who do you move off the roster to make room for Dorian Williams? Because you still want him active. If something happens, like, he is a core of your team now.
Well, what you're going to do is you're going to start with Steve in the comments right there with his question that he's got about Dorian Williams, because we are playing run-heavy teams, especially the Lions, the Rams.
Do you protect Matt Milano and almost keep Matt Milano on the sideline? Because this is my point. You're going to want to have Dorian Williams on your active roster every single week. Whether Matt Milano's back or not, you need Dorian Williams. So then the question becomes, who leaves? Which guy are you kicking off the roster to make room so that you can have Matt Milano and Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard? It's the same way we carry 3 linebackers or 3 running backs, and we go, well, they each play a specific role. They each have a job, and depending on what the game needs, we give it to them. You're going to want that. So then the question is, what is it like? I'm thinking like Nick Morrow. Nick Morrow's probably gone then, isn't he?
I mean, there's a lot of guys you can cut from the roster. The 52nd, 53rd guy, like, that's not my concern. I think where you're more asking, like, who do you remove from the starting lineup to put Milano back in? Because that'd be the bigger question I have. Like, there's guys you can cut to get Milano back on the field. That's not the issue. It's just, who do you take off the field to get Milano back on the field? I still think you take Dorian Williams off, knowing that, hey, Milano has the knowledge, and maybe you go and get him hidden in certain packages or passing, but you don't take Dorian Williams off the field altogether because Milano doesn't have that callousness that we talked about when Tre'Davious White was coming back. Like, going back to my article at bangedupbills.com, I looked at some different guys, how they brought different guys back. Now, keep in mind, I looked at Tre'Davious White, Daquan Jones, and Dawson Knox. Jones and Knox came back within the season for their respective injuries. White was coming back from his ACL tear and needed that time to callus up there. When White returned, he played in 23% of snaps the first game back, followed by 61% before we returned to 100% in the third game. And then the other guys came back to pretty similar timeframes that they were seeing before. So,
and this is it. Like, when you look at the Bills' upcoming schedule, we're going to play the Lions, we're going to play the Rams, we're going to play the 49ers. Regardless of whether you think Milano's ready or not, you can't, like Carl Thornton, Carl Tommen, and I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. He just hit the nail on the head. Yes, Dorian Williams is playing well, but Milano is one of the best linebackers in football. You got to find a balance. And this coaching staff is going to have its hands full trying to find that balance of how do we get Matt Milano? The same thing the 49ers are trying to do with CMC right now.
Hey, I got a question.
Knock the rust off. Hang on. They're trying to knock the rust off. But how much is too much? And at what point does it become a detriment to your own team? So they're going to have to walk the wire of where do we mix in Matt Milano and how do we kind of fade Dorian Williams slowly, because Dorian Williams is a player. And if anything, I'm hoping this pushes Dorian Williams to a higher level of play. Now, Chris, you had something?
Kyle, when is Milano's window closed?
After the 49ers game, so they have to make a decision on whether to activate him or keep him on injured reserve. It's like the Tuesday after the Sunday Night Football game.
Okay, well, my logic would be because you have runs against the Niners, the Lions, the Rams, and then you close with the Jets and the Patriots, you should probably keep things status quo the way we've been going, and then for the final 3 games, tweak the lineup because you kind of know that you're going to win those last 3 games, so why not use the last 3 games to tweak the lineup how you want for when we get to the playoffs? Just an idea.
I like Carl's idea. Carl's not dumb. Carl's like Jalen Virgil, Jordan Phillips, Quinn Jefferson. Fire them all into the fucking sun. Hey, thanks for staying around for a cup of coffee. Guess who can have jobs in the practice squad? Q Jeff, Phillips, you know where you... There's a reason you're here.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're here. You're not going anywhere.
I mean, all those names you listed there, Carl, are correct. I mean, I'm not sure about Grable if he needs to come back, but he is eligible to come back. He's been eligible to come back for several weeks. I think it just comes down to roster gymnastics.
Yeah. So wide receiver Keon Coleman. If we want to flip sides of the ball, we've been talking about defensive injuries. Let's talk about this one because, again, everyone thought they were going to get to see the battle of first round and should have been first round draft picks, Keon Coleman and Xavier Worthy. They thought they were going to get that. They didn't. Keon Coleman, is it an impact fracture or is it more torsion related? Like, was it a twist? Was it hurt somewhere else? Or was it literally just the impact of Poyer's helmet slamming into it that fractured it?
I think it was just the impact, and we don't know if it's a fracture or not. I mean, he has shown up to some events and some practices with a black brace on the wrist. Yep. He did not have thumb support, so that could kind of rule out any radial side issues. I have no idea what's going on. I don't have a good read on it because there's been times where he's been moving his hand around and doing stuff in practice. Like, okay, he sees the spalling, it's looking good. And then he goes right back to the brace. Can't get a great read on what's going on there. I wish I had more information on it, but he's been cagey on it. He was at
of course he has been. Listen, have you seen him? He's literally doing ads for booking.com.
Yeah, I saw
on the
that.
Maid of the Mist. You think that guy's going to tell you that his wrist is hurt?
No. And and the thing that kills me about this, like, we can't get a good read on it. I mean, he was giving out quotes at his coat drive with the Bills, and like he was moving his hand around. I see people tagging me on some stuff. I'm like, I can't tell what's going on with the pictures. His agent's been real cagey on stuff. His agent's
a little. Hey, listen, if he's anything like him, he's probably chicken fried and just very Southern, old school. I'm not going to tell you shit unless you make me.
Exactly. And so I don't know. I mean, Coleman should return. He's been having 3 weeks off. He should return, but we need to see him start catching balls from Josh Allen or the Jugs machine, because that was the key thing we saw with Amari Cooper was, we thought that the wrist injury wasn't anything big. And then he told us some ideas and some, thoughts on what happened, as we'll find out more what went into that. And then you realize, okay, this is why he's not returning. This is what's going on. And then when we saw him start taking catches from the Jugs machine from Josh Allen, okay, that's when the clearance was a return. So we should start seeing a similar trajectory for Coleman, hopefully this week.
What about Dalton Kincaid? He's the other one. Like, if there's two guys that you could add back to the Buffalo offense that would immediately change how you felt about him going into a game, like, hell, this is the reason everyone was a pessimist ahead of Chiefs. It was because, there's no Keon Coleman, there's no Dalton Kincaid. Oh, we're fucked. Nah. Whole lot of nah. Thank God.
Yeah.
But Knox stepped up. Kincaid Shakir stepped up. Samuel stepped up.
Yep.
Mac Hollins every single player rose to the occasion of that Chiefs game. Now you're coming out of this going, Dalton Kincaid, whether you want to talk about heart, you want to talk about soul, Kincaid's just one of our better pass catchers. Who comes back first, Dalton or Keon?
Given that Keon has had more time off, I would expect Keon to come back sooner. Dalton, it looks like he had a left PCL sprain. That's because he was trying to dive for that Josh Allen catch he missed. And he landed directly on the knee. That direct posterior translation of the tibia coming up causes PCL to sprain. We saw Gabe Davis last year in the Week 18 matchup against Miami. He missed both postseason games. Considering that Kincaid missed last week and he had a bye, he should be able to return. But if it does linger, like I expect him to play with a hinge brace on his knee, and he might be on the injury report the rest of the season, given how they've treated the injury report this year. He will be able to return to play. We have seen PCL injuries linger more with Puka Nacua and some other players over the years, but the Bills have been pretty good with managing PCL injuries with regards to Gabe Davis and then Harrison Phillips a few years ago. So it comes down to how severe was it? The fact that he tried returning to play was a good sign that might be more mild, and then he just realized he couldn't protect himself, as they told to Alex Brasky. It just might come down to, is this thing strong enough that it's not necessarily cause further injury, but can he get through and do the things he needs to do, cutting, jumping, everything else without causing further injury?
We don't need any other injuries. And
No, we don't.
re-injury. This is the thing that is so tenuous when it comes to injury management. You want to walk the line of, I need my best players, but at the same time, I don't want to risk them for games that actually matter.
Yeah.
So if you're the Buffalo Bills and you're sitting here at 9-2, a place you didn't think you deserved to be in the preseason, although they thought they did, we didn't.
Yep.
You as a coach are not inclined to rush anyone back because, again, you're playing with house money. No one in your division is catching you. Like, in all honesty, Kyle, can we say this? And I'm not trying to be a dick, but we should thank the ineptitude of the New York Jets and the ineptitude of the Dolphins and the ineptitude of the New England Patriots, in that we could, in theory, drop a couple games and never worry about winning the AFC East.
Correct.
And so in that way, I know Sunday, like, it's going to be on prime time. It's going to feel like a huge game. It's not. It's a game against an NFC opponent. If you win one more, then yes, you're keeping pace with Kansas City. And you're waiting for them to drop a game, in which case you tie and now you move ahead.
Yep.
Great, wonderful. If you don't win, though, that's not the ultimate goal. Having the 1 seed is not the ultimate goal. Having the ultimate goal is, I need my team healthy. And so you might risk not putting in a Spencer Brown this week.
Yep.
If you find out a Nick Bosa isn't playing.
Yep.
Then you look farther down the line and you go, the Lions, the Rams. I have 3 straight NFC matchups. Realistically, if I drop any one of these, it doesn't change where I am in the AFC standing.
Yep.
I'm still leading my division. And so in that way, you could do a lot for yourself by being conservative on the injury front.
Yep.
And it's something that I, as a fan, hate, but it's real. Like the idea that you as a team might protect yourself from future injury by just saying, look, I don't want to have to deal with Dalton Kincaid re-aggravating something early.
Yep.
I don't want to deal with Coleman coming back too fast with a wrist injury and not being able to catch, and then Allen's still targeting him anyway. I want to know that he's able to catch when he's out there. You know, I saw Teddy in the comments talked about Amari Cooper and his wrist injury. Now, if you can expand on that a little bit, you were the one who told me, like, that's a thing that's just going to have to get dealt with next year.
Yes and no. Based off of what we're seeing, the casting, how he injured the wrist, like he told us when he injured it. Well, thankfully, I mean, because sometimes you're kind of guessing, and there's been times I've looked at the film, I'm like, this is when it happened. And you're like, oh, that's not when it happened because we got more information later on. But he told us that he kind of felt funny on a block, and there was only one time in the game against Seattle where he fell and landed on his wrist funny. Once again, that fall on the outstretched hand, he landed on his wrist funny. And then there's a few more times in the game where he's kind of shaking out his wrist and, you know, kind of favoring it. It was a fall and outstretched hand, and based off of the casting and just the ability to, they were saying it's more a pain management issue. I thought it might be a TFCC injury. It's called a triangular fibrocartilage complex injury, and that's a lot of words. But basically, it's just basic cartilage that helps connect the wrist to the forearm, the ulna. And this can cause difficulty with pain, weakness, grip strength, and just have clicking and whatnot in there. So if you immobilize the area for a little bit, you can hopefully allow that cartilage just kind of scar down and heal up enough to where he can still do what he needs to do. He had to miss the 2 games. He's had a cast on the area. And according to the beat reporters, this thing's looked pristine every time, which means they're cutting that cast off, they're doing the rehab, recasting it, and trying to just allow the area to stabilize and improve there. We don't know if he's going to require the cast through the rest of the season, but we know he can catch the ball with the cast. I mean, he did a great job against Kansas City. So, you know, he's only going to continue getting better and better, but it was surprising he missed time at all because he'd only missed 4 games in his entire career up to this point. So for him to miss, 2 games in his short Bills tenure was concerning, but given the mechanism of injury, the potential injury, it doesn't surprise us.
What I love is this idea of hurt or injured. Now, Amari Cooper, one of the biggest knocks on him when he joined the NFL was that he's not a vocal leader. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's not in your face. He's not. And look at his press. Look at him. Look at when he talks to the press. He's very subdued. He's very low key. He even talks kind of quietly, like, "Hey, I'm Amari Cooper, and yeah, playing with Josh Allen's really cool, man. This is great." Here's what I love. That dude is a fucking gamer.
Yes.
He's a gamer. He's a warrior. So to see him out there against the Chiefs making those early catches, and then they faded him, right?
Yep. Which is fine.
And hey, that's okay.
Yep.
He's out there. He's fighting the good fight. And that's what culture does for you. He finally found a team where he's like, hey, I'm hurt, but it's okay.
Yep.
I'm cool. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do what I got to do. And he scared him early because they immediately dropped out and just started playing off coverage on everything. Because they were like, Amari Cooper might just drop he might just drop another one in the bucket to Amari Cooper 20 yards downfield.
We don't need the rah-rah guys anyway. I mean, we have some of the raw guys. We have Deion Dawkins, we have Jordan Phillips if we need him for that stuff. But look at Amari Cooper is going to just be quiet but produce. You know who rah-rah guys are? Rex Ryan, and then if you want to go way back, Brian Bosworth. You know what those two fuckers are doing? Rex Ryan is begging for the Jets job, and Brian Bosworth is doing Dr. Pepper commercials. I would take Amari fucking Cooper every day because he just shows up and produces.
This is it. And this is who the Buffalo Bills are. And I love the fact that this is where our roster is because everybody who's here has the potential to come back. We're building something.
No one has been ruled out other than the guys that suffered injuries in the preseason. Everybody that is on the injury report right now or injury reserve is eligible to come back at some point.
And I love that for our team because right now we're in the driver's seat in the AFC East. And also it's starting to look like the AFC.
Yep.
And so if you tell me that we can get healthier addition just through like lack of contrition. Like, Chris, who can stop us? Who's going to derail this bus? It's not the Chiefs. What are we doing here?
We can go to this because I could put it on the studio if I wanted to, but it is 10-7 Chargers.
Oh,
And I will.
The Ravens are losing.
I will tell you that
what a bunch of losers.
Lamar Jackson has 18 yards more passing than Air Force had all of Saturday. And if you guys do you know how many passing yards Air Force had on?
0.
There you go.
They were one of the first teams to win a game with no passing yards. It's fucking hilarious. Hey guys, that Ravens team is supposed to be our corollary. Who's scared now? Who's worried? What are we talking about? Let's get healthy. This is one of the craziest seasons in Bills history because we started off as also-rans. And now we're being looked at as not just the front runners in our division, but then you look at the conference and you go, wait, who's competent? Who's well coached? Who executes when they have to? Here's fucking Kansas City. Boys, I got to go home and watch the rest of it. I love the fact that we just peaked at viewers. I love it at the very end. Guys, I love the fact that I get to show up here and I get to do this with my friend Kyle, my friend Chris. Kyle, plug all your shit. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
I am everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter or X, whatever you call it, Blue Sky now, Instagram, Banged Up Bills. You can find my work. I also do work for DL Fantasy. Get some work done for Bills Digest. I'm pretty much anywhere that you want to find Bills information, fantasy football, and it continues growing. And
as it should.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No, you're welcome. No, he's a fucking genius. We're two idiots with microphones. That's the difference. He knows things. We just talk about things. That's the difference. Chris, your stupid haircut aside, we appreciate you guys, and we hope that you appreciate everything we put out into this. Thank you for showing up for it, but we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. That's Kyle Trimble. And this has been your Rock Pile Report.